Employers must give written notice of termination to full-time and part-time employees when their employment is ending. Notice of termination lets an employee know when their final day of employment is going to be. The period from when an employee receives notice to their final day of employment is called a notice period. Full-time and part-time employees are entitled to notice of termination or payment in lieu of notice, but casual employees aren't. Other employees that don't get notice or payment in lieu include those employed for a specific task, season or period of time, like those under a fixed-term contract, trainees who have been engaged for a set time or the period of their training arrangement, employees who have been terminated for serious misconduct. An employee's minimum notice period is based on their length of service. For example, employees who have worked less than 1 year are entitled to at least 1 week's notice. This goes up to 4 weeks for employees who have worked for an employer for more than 5 years. Employees who are over 45 years old and have worked at least 2 years for their employer are entitled to an additional week of notice. Awards, registered agreements or employment contracts can set out longer minimum notice periods, so check yours to make sure. An employer can choose to pay out an employee's notice period instead of having them work the time. In this situation, an employee must be paid at least the amount they would have gotten for working the notice period, including any overtime, penalty rates, loadings, allowances, bonuses or other separate entitlements they would have been paid. Notice of termination must be in writing and include the final date of employment. Employers can give notice to an employee in person, by letter to the employee's last known address, or electronically through email or text message if agreed to by the employee. Under the National Employment Standards, employees don't have to give notice of termination to their employers when they wish to resign. However, it is common for awards, registered agreements and employment contracts to say an employee has to give notice when they resign, so it's a good idea to check what these say. An employee should get the following entitlements in their final pay: outstanding wages for hours they have worked, including penalty rates and allowances, any accumulated annual leave, including annual leave loading if it would have been paid during employment, and, if it applies, accrued or pro rata long service leave, payment in lieu of notice, and redundancy pay. Under the National Employment Standards, sick and carers leave is not paid out when employment ends. For more information about notice of termination, visit www.fairwork.gov.au/notice. Authorised by the Australian Government, Canberra.